it's Laura. Welcome back. Hyperstamper, and I have today's antique junk journal all finished. I really like it. This is another one from my road trip haul this weekend. I have had a few the winnings of Barbara Worth books. This is a different image on the cover. I've not seen this one. It's always a woman with a hat, but this one is really exquisite. She's much more sophisticated. And yet this is a book from 1911, so it's super old. I had to do a little bit of repair to the spine, so I covered up some of my markings, but it's still all intact, and it's quite a chunky one. So I put some crochet, vintage crochet here and here. I love it, some matching ribbons, and let's do the little tour inside before I put it in my Etsy shop. And as always, everything in here is authentic and vintage ephemera and no commercial products whatsoever. And there's literally like a pocket on every single page. It's a bit crazy, so I'll try to go through as fast as I can. The original first pages, of course, there's the publication date there, August 1911. That's the first plate of the book. So I always try to keep the first plates and the first pages in if they come with the book. This is a piece of 130-year-old fabric from another book that just sort of fell off, so I wanted to reuse it. This is from an early 1900s children's book page. Look at that beautiful illustration. Isn't that something? I'm telling you, there's nothing like old illustrations. And speaking of which, this is a 1903 Beatrix Potter plate from one of her little pocketbooks. And it's really stained and in bad shape, but it's so precious. It's one of the more popular images there. I made the little pocket out of another piece of doily. And there's a vintage ledger sheet. A little hidden journaling spot under this corner tuck here. And this is a nice big journaling page here, but that was the inside fold of the cover, the book jacket of a very cool book, the Nature Atlas of America. And I've actually got some of the pages inside here. This is a beautiful piece of antique lace here, still on its cotton. And then this is a 1950s magazine piece of crafts. Look at lampshades. This was a big thing to do just a few years ago, where you poke the holes in, you pierce it. And here's some how to make craft boxes. Look at that. You could put a junk journal in that one and that one. So cool. Anyways, that's all mounted on top of the children's book page. And here's one of those pages from that book I was just talking about. And that is from 1952. Look how pretty it is. Isn't that beautiful? And then on this side, I turned it into a pocket. And this is from I want to say 1905. 1925, sorry. And it's a cursive writing drill paper. Isn't that cool? I love it. I love it so much. Very neat. And here is a really fun plate. Look at these three girls here. They're called chimney pot hats, and that's from Wales, that one. And you can journal on the back of that as well. That's an antique piece. And then here's the other side of that. Little boy blue. Oh, so sweet. This little night dressing. This is from the 1920s here. And it's the whole thing. And look at the awesome graphics on the back. Isn't that amazing? I just love it so much. So that's really precious. I think that's one of the last full pieces I have, and I didn't want to tear it in half. So you get the whole thing on this one. And this is a beautiful 1913, I believe, Girls' Own Annual. Look at that. Those are gorgeous. Love it. So that's a really cool historic piece there. Did some stamping on these pages. That's the 1950s Raggedy Ann book page. And then another one of these amazing transfers. Look at this hilarious one. And then you can see Jam Kitchen. So you would have ironed that onto a tea towel and then embroidered it for a fun pattern. That's from the 40s. This is from the 60s here. And look at, this is a cool class trip here. Very fun. One of these great vintage Pennsylvania souvenir napkins. And, oh, that's from 1904 Feathers book. I love that. Or Freckles with the feather on it. And that's from 1925. Another one of these wonderful kids stick-em books. And this one is a little girl in a wagon. So the children would have popped these all out and then stuck them in the place where they belong in the book. Here is a wonderful early 1900s postcard that never did get used, but it's really quite lovely. It's a German building in Chicago. Isn't that neat? And then this is a hand-typed research paper, and the research is probably from the 1800s, and it was probably typed in the early 1900s. Here is another really colorful, wonderful 1930s children's book page, and we've got the little squirrel there, antique paper here, and the children running by the squirrel. They're on their way to school. And then this here is another little booklet that I made just out of my cutoffs, so you can journal inside there. Lots of journaling space in there. And it's this beautiful plate, also early 1900s, for the pyramids of Egypt. Isn't that neat? And here's one of these vintage edu-cards, number 4. And I can always swap out the numbers too of cards and things. You just have to let me know at checkout. Piece of vintage upholstery fabric there. And then Madame Bovary, ooh la la. And you could journal on that one as well. Pretty little Raggedy Ann page here as well. A little girl with her Raggedy Ann doll here. And then this is from a children's book, children's science book. What happens when the water and the air mix together? Now look at this. This is the only one I have like this. This is from the 40s. We know who wears the pants at our house now, and this is actually sort of got gold embossing on it, the pin. Isn't it fun? I just love it. And there's gold embossing on the inside too. So that's just a really cool little card. And then this is a vintage Wildflowers of North America piece here. It's got the trillium on the back. That is the Ontario flower where I live. That's from an antique book there, an antique music sheet, a vintage map. 1920s Child's Garden of Verses with a beautiful image here and here. And I left the poem intact there as well. And this is a really colorful page of sparrows, which are songbirds. So I put it in the melody page here. I love songbirds. Little 1950s Kentucky Avenue Monopoly card. And this is from the 1800s, and it's color, which is a pretty big deal. I know that sounds funny, but it is, because this is extremely colorful, and I made it into a pocket. That's how I received it. It was in pretty bad shape, but I just had to use it. It was so pretty. And there's another little plate here, a grotto geyser, frozen geyser, little hair there from Freckles. And then we have this wonderful 1930s page here. Look at that. Look at how colorful that is. The little workers, and a little story about goats on the back of that as well. More journaling space. That is from the 1950s there. A happy day in the city. Journal, recipe card, never used. Antique paper here. A flinch card, number 9 from 1938 and 1937. Stamps here from Switzerland. And that is a vintage dictionary page that I made all these pockets out of. Another wonderful vintage playing card. And this I made out of a book cover. And turned it into a tag. You can journal on the back of that. And one of my pearls receipts from the 50s. A vintage sewing instruction sheet. A children's book page with the red-headed woodpecker and more of that sewing sheet here. It just keeps going. We've got a waterfall flip here in this pocket. This is a tri-pocket made out of a 1950s postage stamp collector's page. And this is from 1959. Look at that. Another one of these children popped out and find a place in the book where they can glue it in. I love these interactive activities that kids don't do anymore. And this is a page from this book, from the Winning of Barbara Worth book. It's a map inside the book there. And then this is mounted onto this here, which is a early 1900s, pre-1910 Gardens of England book. This is extremely old. It is Sicilia, which I believe is Sicily. Beautiful antique map there. And that brings us to the end. I hope you love it as much as I loved making it. This one's very special, and it will get delivered on time. I'm using a courier rather than Canada Post right now, so no worries. You will get your orders in on time. Come back soon, and don't forget to subscribe.